the places I recommend you look is payscale.com, and that's the local Seattle company, and they have really good salary information data. In higher ed, the Chronicle of Higher Ed will give you, if you go to the data link, it will also give you salary information. And if you don't subscribe to the Chronicle now, you can go to the SU library and you'll be able to access it through the library. So that's a really important one. Recently, a friend of mine applied for a job at the University of Washington and decided she thought they were lowballing her. And so she went online and looked at, by name, you can look at any person at the University of Washington. So one of the things she did is she started with the person that would be your supervisor, because you're not going to be paid more than your boss. So if you know what that person is making, you're going to know it's somewhere less than that. So if you look at salary.com or PayScale or the Chronicle, that gives you, and the Occupational Outlook Handbook. Those are like the 4 places I would send people.
And for folks, additionally, and I'll pass this out, so no worries about writing it down. But other things. So so I've got the website for that Washington State payment stuff on here. Akuhoai, which is the housing organization, does an annual salary survey, and they post those results. So I've got a link for that on here as well. So for those of you who are looking at positions in housing, you can search by state, by region, public and private. I was interested to find out that in Washington, the average salary for a hall director in 11-12 was $28,800 at a private institution, and at a public is $34,100. And so that is it's just important to know, right? So if you're looking at a private institution in the state of Washington, you're looking to have housing included, and they're offering you $28,800, it's right average of what's being offered. Whereas if they're going to come in with an offer of $40,000, you're like, okay, that's a decent offer. Right? So it just lets you kind of gauge things behind the scenes as you're determining how guns blazing you need to go in there as you're having those conversations. And then I do cost of living, and I've got a site on here. It's really great. You can put in your where you currently are and where the city that you're looking to go to, and it talks about not only what the difference in cost of living is, but what are the factors. Is it food? Is it housing? Is it entertainment? So if you're going to a place that's a lot more expensive, but your housing is included, you can account for that when you're talking about things and recognize that the value of your housing in, say, downtown Seattle is greater than in, say, Missoula, Montana, right? There's just a different cost of housing as it relates to those two. And the other thing is talk to colleagues at that institution, right? Like that's we all know so many people, so call somebody, right? Like, how does vacation work for you? You can do a lot of that research ahead of time, and it doesn't have to be to the person who's interviewing you or at the time of an offer. You can just kind of know what the culture on that campus is by asking friends, SDA alum, or other colleagues. What other points do I have to make? And this is totally me leaning into my political frame, but remember that this is a political process. Whether you like it or not, it's political. It's this idea of trying to get the best candidate for the least amount of money. People aren't voluntarily offering up their cards, so neither should you in the process. And one of the concrete examples I offer is consider saying, I'm very interested in this position, as opposed to you're my top choice, right? Because if Beth and I are working together and you tell Beth you're my top choice and you're kind of like number 2 for me, I might actually not even move you on in my process, knowing that you're more interested in Beth and she's also moving you on, right? So you might not even get interviews because of that, especially thinking about a NASBAR and ACPA search process. So I know that those are finished, but those are some things as it relates to just kind of working to educate yourself
experiences or specialized knowledge that you're bringing to the table that might set you apart from another candidate. It could be that you just have sort of the classic textbook sort of preparation for a particular position, and it's fine to emphasize that. But leading with that information in the process is really important. And then if there's anything, again, that really sets you apart, to really emphasize that and own that and be aware of that.
Some of it too, I think, is even just the frame of your own mind and remembering that you're not just one of 100 people that they're talking to. You are the person that they selected, that they want you. And so some of it is just believing that your worth is greater than what their first offer is going to be, whatever that is.
I like to look at required and preferred qualifications. So if you just barely are scraping by the requireds, you're probably not going to be at the top end of a salary range. If you are meeting and surpassing all of the preferred qualifications, you know, you've got your degree and you've got this number of years of experience and all of these things, I think that that's a really good indicator of, you know, an employer saying, this is what I need, but I would love this, right? And if you are that I would love, I think you've got a little bit more room for negotiation as it relates to the position generally. And then the other thing that I'll say, I think just to touch base on something that you mentioned earlier about retracting an offer. In higher ed, I'm not familiar with anyone having experienced an offer being retracted because of their negotiation process. And so I think that that's definitely just different in different contexts. But I think it's about that finesse, right? Like if you're going in there guns a-blazing, making demands, like you might be the first, right?